What's up, everybody? How are you guys doing? My name is Tiffany E. of Psych Design TV 2. Let's talk about some wrestling, shall we? But let's talk about some things that we've heard today on After the Bell with Corey Graves. And this is Corey Graves' take on Charlotte Flair. I'm going to let that play, let you guys hear what he said, and then I'm going to offer my rebuttal to Corey's statement about Charlotte's current status in the WWE.
Thing I was not a fan of on Monday Night Raw, and to be quite honest, haven't been a fan of recently. And I want you to pay very close attention because context is very important to what I'm about to say. I'm sure that's not going to stop people from chopping things up and making this a headline and Graves buries somebody, because that's not what this is. This is me as a fan and someone maybe a little too close to the business, just expressing my honest opinion about one of the best talents of our generation. In my opinion, Charlotte Flair has never felt less important than she does right now. Now, hear me out. This is Charlotte Flair we're talking about, okay? She has a resume a mile long, and in a few short years has already cemented herself as one of, if not the greatest female superstar in WWE history. By the time it's all said and done, I'm pretty certain we will be referring to the Queen as such. But something about what's been happening lately just feels off. This whole tag team thing with Charlotte finding a different partner week after week, it just doesn't click. I'm not feeling it. And it looks to me like Charlotte's not feeling it. You can see it on her face. Charlotte Flair looks like she's going through the motions and getting through the night. And again, I don't mean this as an insult. She is a close friend of mine. I have all the respect in the world for Charlotte Flair. I am not in any way saying anything negative about her ability. I am saying what is happening around Charlotte Flair has made her feel less than Charlotte Flair. For some reason, despite the fact that they spent the better part of last year trying to kill one another, she and Becky are all of a sudden just pals. Charlotte Flair and Asuka at WrestleMania a couple years ago was maybe the match of the year. Charlotte Flair is one of the most exciting talents in all of WWE, maybe the best athlete in the entire business. Charlotte Flair has the ability to be consistent. We heard Roman Reigns talk about the importance of consistency on this show. Last week, Kevin Owens talked about how his passion for what he's doing on television truly matters because it means he has something to live up to, something to deliver. And I feel like maybe Charlotte Flair is of the same ilk. Let's be perfectly honest here. Charlotte Flair carried the main event of WrestleMania this year. Yes, the man Becky Lynch won. Yes, Becky got all the spotlights and accolades, and deservedly so. But let's be honest. If Charlotte Flair was not in that triple threat match at WrestleMania, there is no way that that match is nearly as exciting or successful as it was. Period. I will argue that point to the death. Charlotte Flair, to me, was the star of that matchup because she is a pro. She is highly talented, and when she's motivated, dare I say, untouchable. I miss the Queen, my Queen, the villainous that just kicked everybody's ass because she was superior. I don't know how you bring it back. I don't think it's a tough thing to fix, but it needs to come back. Either that or let Charlotte Flair take a little bit of a break. Let her take some time off and just disappear from public eye for a few months. Let everybody remember why they miss Charlotte Flair, why she is who she is. And I know I have to explain myself ad nauseum, so allow me to reiterate once more. I want the Queen back. My guests at
All right, guys, so you just heard what Corey Graves said about Charlotte Flair's current status, the weird situation going on with Charlotte and her issues with the Kabuki Warriors and this whole situation that has bloomed basically out of nowhere. In this case, what he said about Charlotte is absolutely 100% true. She is in a weird spot where it looks as if they don't necessarily know exactly what to do with her. And I, for one, am at the latter with him. I believe that they should give Charlotte time off. I don't think that she should be on television if she is not being used effectively. The issue with the women's division is simple. There are not enough women to spread this around so that you can have a woman like Charlotte not in the main event. In regards to what he said about WrestleMania, do I believe Charlotte added a level of intensity to that match and made this rivalry between the three of them better? Yes, I do. Do I think that she bolstered that match tremendously? Yes, I do, because without Charlotte, it wouldn't have been as big as it was. However, I do think that WWE overstepped and overshadowed the bigger picture, which was Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch. What they should have done was focus solely on their match and gave Charlotte a match of her own. They negated that and decided to make the match bigger than life itself, and the match ended up being more of a flop. It could have been so much more palatable if they would have allowed Becky and Ronda to lead them into this new world, I guess you can say, of the women taking the reins. They did not need Charlotte Flair to make the match great. They should have relied on the fact that Ronda and Becky had enough animosity between the two of them to make the match worthwhile. The focus on the three of them caused a lot of chaotic moments, and it was just something that was just, we were just ready for WrestleMania to be over. It was long, it was tiresome, and unfortunately for the women, they were the last match of the night, and it made that match even longer, the fact that they had these three women in there together. Don't get me wrong, the match itself was historic, and it was an okay match, but it probably could have been much better had they had focused solely on the issues between Ronda and Becky. I do understand Charlotte's addition to the match, but I can't really say that it was one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. And yes, Charlotte added a piece to that match that was good, but it just didn't work in terms of chemistry and everybody being able to flow with each other. I wasn't a big fan of that match, and I still to this day will continue to say that even though Charlotte Flair added a certain level of star power to the match, it was not needed. They compounded it and they piled it up and they made it so big. They did have a good lead up to it, but it was so much going on and it just didn't give it a chance. The match just basically flopped under the pressure. It folded on itself and it wasn't great. But moving into what he said that Charlotte Flair has become irrelevant and there's some inconsistency with her character, which I actually agree with. But that's happening a lot with a lot of people. It's not just Charlotte. I know that he wants his queen back and he wants the villainous character that everybody's grown to love. But at this point, people have become tired of the very same motions that we're getting. It's always in the same vein. It's always, let's do Charlotte Flair as the heel to be champion. You have to think about how she got to being the 10-time women's champion. It was one of the most weird, inconsistent, and just idiotic ways to build a woman up to have multiple championships. About 3 of her championship reigns have lasted days compared to, and then people make fun of Sasha for having 4 championship reigns and them being 2 months, a month, maybe even 8 days long, whereas Charlotte has a very similar vein for half of her championships. It doesn't seem right. It seems like the situation is you don't know what to do with her now that she's not in the title picture. And Corey is like, I want my queen back. Well, let's be honest. You can't have her in the limelight 24/7 and no one else gets a turn at the gate. If Corey was in the WWE as a wrestler right now, he would be frustrated, he would be upset, and he would feel like he is not needed, nor is he respected in this company because guys like Rollins, guys like Roman, and it's no shade to Roman, but guys like Rollins, guys like Roman, they're always going to be at the top. They're always going to be the ones pushed, and he's at the bottom waiting for the scraps. That's how it's going to feel. The women's division is 10 times worse. Okay? Becky, Sasha, Bayley, and Charlotte are your top 4 women. They are the ones who that title rotates between on a constant basis. If it's not them, then it's Bliss. Bliss has a title. And then you may get the occasional Asuka. And that is it. You don't get to see the Naomis, the Taminas. You don't get to see Ruby Riott or Nia Jax or any of the other girls who are in the back. Ember Moon is another one who are in the back and who have supreme talent. They are one of the most talented women in the division. I would go so far as to say that Naomi rivals Charlotte in many ways in terms of her athleticism and her capability in the ring. And yet that woman has had 1 title reign to Charlotte's 10. If you want to talk about irrelevancy and inconsistency, then you need to go all around the world with this. I am not saying what Corey Graves is saying is not true and there's no substance to it. I agree with him. But at the same time, if you're going to tout all this love and admiration and talk about how Charlotte needs to be at the top, then you have got to start looking at the entire division as a whole. You want to call it down the middle, you want to call it straight ahead, and you want to be after the bell, that's fine. But you have got to be fair to the other women who are in that division who have been shafted, who have not had opportunities, whereas Charlotte Flair for the last, 5 years has been at the top of the division and has been there holding it down. I'm not taking anything from that woman. She is one of the greatest superstars of all time, okay? I will say that and I will stand in that truth. And you can argue me to the ground all you want, but you cannot deny that woman's athleticism, the way she has presented her character. She is what she touts herself to be. But at the same time, there are other women in this division who can be a rival to her or even greater than her, but you don't give them the opportunity nor the chance, or at least that red carpet rollout that you give Charlotte, and that makes it stifling. That is where you come in and you're like, okay, what are we doing? What is going on here? You're only asking that question now because Charlotte is no longer the one who's at the top of the mountain, and she's not the one who's getting all the accolades. And you're only asking that question now because her character is inconsistent and her character is out of sync. This is what's been happening to a lot of superstars, including the men. So if you're going to take that and take it down the way you did with Charlotte, I'm all for it, but do it for everybody. Do it for everybody. I want to hear your thoughts on why Tamina hasn't been champion for the last 2 decades. I want to hear your thoughts on why Naomi got 1 title shot and hasn't been able to get back into title contingency yet. Whereas people like Bayley, Sasha, and even your precious Charlotte have been able to get in title contingency at least 7 times since her title reign. And that might be per superstar. Now, I'm not saying that Charlotte doesn't deserve what he's saying. I'm not saying that at all. But let's keep it all the way funky. Let's keep it 100. This is not a new situation. Charlotte is simply in a funk, and the WWE has no idea what to do with her. And Corey's frustration with Charlotte's current status, he did mention the fact that there was no resolution to Becky and Charlotte's issues. They basically just kind of just, oh, well, you know, they're gonna get they're gonna be tag teams, they're gonna be friends again. No, like, WWE should have handled this better. They should have ended their animosity towards each other. They should have killed that in the back in a nice little promo section between the two of them. There should have been something that made us think, okay, well, they've squashed their beef. Their beef is done. No, this is lazy writing, lazy creative. You can't blame that on the superstars, and that's not what he's doing. I'm just talking, okay? Because I know context is everything. He is 100% correct, and people take things and run with it. They don't really listen. He's not blaming her, but he's just making a statement about what he's seen. At the same time, your precious WWE creative team and the way that they've structured her is why things are the way that they are. Now, What Charlotte and Becky could have done was took it upon themselves to kind of take the reins a little bit. They might have needed to structure their storyline better so that they could squash their beef. Okay, Charlotte is in desperation mode right now as a character. If you're looking at it from a kayfabe standpoint, she lost that match. She did a bang-up job in that 2-on-1 match. She worked her ass off in that match. She damn near won that match, but she just could not fight the numbers that she was up against. Now, I don't necessarily have to have Charlotte as a heel. I don't mind Charlotte as a face. I think Charlotte needs to be a face. She's been a heel for a very long time. And right now, in the women's division, you have faces, but you've got more heels than you've got faces right now. Okay? You got Bliss and Cross, their faces. You've got... Well, I know that right now on SmackDown, the only two heels that we have are Bayley and Sasha. And Dana could go either way, but I still say that you could have Charlotte as a face. Becky's kind of like in that middle ground where she can waver between face and anti-hero, and no matter what she does, the people are going to cheer for her. For SmackDown, for Raw, and then another issue too is that the roster for both shows are very limited. You got the roster down to about 6 or 7 women right now. That is not good. It is very, very hard to structure storylines with a limited amount of people to be able to make this work, where there's a non-title bout rivalry between some women, and it just isn't enough people to do it. Half of your roster is injured. You are not interested in building your women's roster so that you have more complex storylines, more emotion, more investment in your women's division. You are only interested in making sure that your women who are at the top stay on top, and that is not smart business. It is not smart because your predecessors are coming from behind you and using your business model to take you out. They are using your business model, your old school ways, your old school building. They are doing all of that to try to tear you down. You have got to start changing and making your company stand out for the right reasons. You've had enough controversy, you've had enough trouble, you've had enough issues. Now it is time to start building your roster based off of talent and their ability to act out the storylines effectively. If they cannot deliver when it comes time for them to be in the spotlight, then they are sent to the bottom of the totem pole, or in catering, as they say a lot on my page. You are in catering because you are not good enough. You are not selling the storyline. You also need to loosen the reins on your superstars. Let them structure their storylines a little bit more. Give them a little bit more power over how their character is perceived. That's why tag team divisions actually exist, okay? What should be done? Charlotte needs to take a break. I think Charlotte taking a break is a bang-up idea. Her coming back probably around Money in the Bank, or maybe even SummerSlam, coming back then, a little bit, about a month or two before SummerSlam is getting ready to start, before they start the storylines. She makes her debut to come back. She needs to take a lengthy break, just like Sasha did. Give her time to reevaluate and revamp herself and come back as the queen, and she can be the queen heel or she can be the queen face, whatever suits her. But at this point, Charlotte doesn't fit into the mold of what the people are looking for. And that's not saying that they have to have a particular mode or Charlotte has to fit this mode, but at this point, the WWE doesn't know what to do with her. They don't know where to put her. They don't know how to make her shine, even though she's not in the main card, and even though she's not holding that title. They don't know how to make her work. And it's not fair that that's falling down on Charlotte. Charlotte's doing the best she can with what she got. And to be honest, really, I think the woman is just burnt out. She hasn't had a chance to relax and sit down and, recoup and come back and change up some things. She hasn't had that opportunity. Charlotte has been going strong since they debuted on the roster with PCB and everybody else. She has been going 100% all day, every day. Now, I think she deserves to have a break however long she wants to take it. I definitely think she should. Do I think Corey Graves was, a little harsh by what he said? No, I think he was spot on. But as I have said before when I started ranting, if you're going to have this conversation about Charlotte, then your ass need to keep that same energy when it comes to the other superstars who are just as good, if not better, if given the chance to perform. Charlotte has said it herself that in the ring, Naomi has taken her to her limits. And yet, despite all of that, she is still set on the back burner. So when she comes back, I'm hoping she comes back and she's all 100% healthy and nothing's going on and everybody's okay. Let's see how your energy is when she comes back and it's time for her to be on Raw or SmackDown or even NXT performing. We'll see if you keep that same energy with Naomi or with Tamina or with Ember when she comes back from injury. We'll see. Here's a little update on this particular video that I was getting ready to put out, and I ended up seeing this tweet by Charlotte. She retweeted WWE.com. WWE.com, of course, is going to share the content that is a part of their big conglomerate family. And Corey Graves' podcast, After the Bell, was talking about Charlotte Flair and her current career status. And her tweet simply said this: the thing is, he's not entirely wrong. And that is more truth than I've heard from a lot of superstars. But just to take it a step further, because I don't think people will clearly understand what I'm trying to say in this particular video, so I'm going to clarify things. I think Charlotte Flair is a great athlete, and I do think that Corey made some valid points. But where Corey and I differ is that his aspiration for Charlotte to be at the top of the heap, that is not necessarily my take. I think Charlotte does need to take a break. And I think that she does need to be, alone or go on a little hiatus for a couple months, clear her head, get out of the limelight, be missed. The reason why I say that is because there are other women in the WWE who can carry what needs to be done. And they need to have an opportunity to do that. You can't do that when the sun is shining in your eyes. You get what I'm saying? So it's a little bittersweet. You can say on one breath, yeah, Charlotte needs to be at the top. And then on the other side, you still want new people. You still want better feuds. You want newer feuds. You want fun feuds. You want things that are different. We're not going to get the same 4 horsewomen battles all the time. You want to be able to see new things. That requires a few steps, as I stated previously. Number 1, your women's division needs to be expanded. That means you need to have more than 8 to 10 women on the roster at a time when you have double that in your men. I think the amount of men you have on your roster needs to be the same as the amount of women you have on your roster. Gonna move on from there. I also think that you need to start building up your other superstars just as great as you built up Charlotte, Becky, Sasha, Bailey, and anybody else who is a mega superstar. You need to let them build themselves up organically, similar to the way Dean Ambrose built himself up, or you can do it via the company, same way they built up Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. It is unfair to have this conversation about Charlotte and to leave out other superstars who have been dying for the opportunity to showcase what they are capable of and what they are doing. Case in point, Tamina Snuka, second generation superstar, I believe she is. One of the best, been there through 2 decades of women's wrestling. And yet, she has not been given one title opportunity. Now, I get it. She's had injuries that have taken her off the show. But those injuries haven't impeding her from being a great performer. She has put on decent matches. She's been able to pull out decent storylines, and yet WWE will not pull the trigger on her. But Corey is more concerned with what's going on with Charlotte. Nothing is wrong with Charlotte. The only thing that's happening with Charlotte is that she's in a slump, just like every other superstar who happens to go through a slump. Seth Rollins had one. You know, Becky had a slump for years. Sasha had a slump for years. Everybody has their day. And now it's Charlotte's turn. So instead of worrying about when the queen will be on top, just bide your time and wait until she gets back there. Because I'm very sure the WWE is not going to waste any time putting their top number one performer back on the top of the heap. But they need to do it in due time. Now, I'm not saying they need to cater to the fans and the fans are their number one thing. I'm not saying that at all. But just hear me out. And then I'll finally be done talking about this. As a fan, and as a fan of this product, I was raised on this product. Knowing what I know now as an adult, having seen the different many phases of the WWE, it is time for the WWE to start doing what is best for their superstars, for the company, and what is best for the fans. Not necessarily what the fans want, but what is best. And sometimes having your superstars take a step back is what's best. You will allow other people to take the reins, and you can see and test the waters to see how well that works out for you. You can do all of this in due time. I am going to say this and I'll be done. And some people will disagree with me. I believe that a rotation needs to be done for the superstars. So 1, they don't get stale. 2, the product doesn't get stale. And 3, they have time to recuperate and change things that need to be changed about their characters or adjust to changes that are going to be given to them about their characters. So they know how to properly execute them on television, and it is believable. I believe rotation works. I'll elaborate on rotation later. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble and rant and rave about WWE. It's my favorite subject. I love it. So I hope you guys rate, comment, and subscribe. You'll see more videos like this in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next one.